daughters are crazy. She jumped into the sun. I can jump. I'm too old and I'm too creepy to jump. Hello, hello. It's really pleasure to be here back in the studio. Hello to everybody here in the studio and many people. And it's not easy to concentrate on what I want to say, saying hello. But I'm just a subtitle now. Today we will travel to December first, then to Amsterdam, and later to, no, first to the Snake Island, I think. This is the most important and exciting trip for us for today. And that's what I said, that I'm just a subtitle, because first point of our program is related to the trip to Amsterdam. We did, part of our team did in last week for the conference, which is part of our daily collaboration with the Institute of Network Culture, actually. But something starts a few months ago, and w grudniu roku 2002 Hertloving wizytował nas tutaj w studiu w Krakowie, dał wielki, wspaniały wykład, a potem przeprowadziliśmy rozmowę. Byłem współautorem, bo wywiad ma zawsze dwóch autorów. I ten wywiad za chwilę będziemy publikować. The interview is in English, but the introduction is in Polish. It's kind of a short description of a few fundamental things I want to remind and also point that there is like a few things that we still keep in our minds and our research aspect relate to searching or production of knowledge. It's still relate to that few points. The first is decentralizacja. W pierwszym pytaniu, jakie mam do Herta, pytam go o decentralizację. To jest taka kategoria, której używaliśmy wtedy w wymianie mailowej bardzo często. Był taki pomysł w ogóle określenia naszej współpracy takim hashtagiem to decentralize Ukraine i myślenia przy pomocy tej kategorii, która troszeczkę się sprostytuowała w ramach myślenia o Web3 i tych wszystkich rzeczach związanych z blockchainem i tak dalej, i taką ideologiczną decentralizacją, która w pewnym sensie jeszcze do niedawna wydawała się pewną możliwością i szansą na lepszą wersję hybrydowej rzeczywistości i naszego w niej podmiotowego uczestnictwa, ale w tej perspektywie blockchainu i Web3 ona czasem wydaje się kolejnym zagrożeniem, taką właściwie akceleracją bardzo bezwzględnego, kapitalistycznego obiegu danych i dóbr poza instytucjonalną kontrolą. Więc jakby ten problem z decentralizacją jest problemem wciąż otwartym i Institute of Network Culture będzie realizował też projekt wokół tego. W kwietniu, o ile dobrze pamiętam, będzie kolejna sesja, konferencja, a to też wszystko funkcjonuje w ramach takich długoterminowych programów badawczych. Oprócz decentralizacji, wydaje mi się, że takim nowym terminem, którym moglibyśmy się posługiwać, jest fragmentacja jako pewna alternatywa dla decentralizacji, bo my wszyscy jesteśmy pofragmentaryzowani i jest to w pewnym sensie konkret, a w pewnym sensie pewnego rodzaju prawdopodobnie słabość, którą można by było przepisać na jakąś taką siłę właśnie bycia taką chmarą sfragmentaryzowanych bytów. Hert chętnie wraca do historii tej kategorii, mówi o taktyczności, o samoorganizacji, namawia do samoorganizacji, natomiast ja uparcie w tej rozmowie próbowałem pytać o instytucje sztuki w kryzysie, który w Polsce ma taki wymiar ideologiczny i jest związany z zawłaszczaniem instytucji sztuki przez coraz bardziej konserwatywne kręgi zarządzające kulturą i polityką tego pięknego kraju, ale też wydaje mi się, że bardzo ważne jest i to w kontekście rozmowy z Hertem jest tym kryzysem, o którym ja tam wspominam, w kontekście takiego przespania ostatnich 20 lat przez instytucje w ramach tego wszystkiego, co się wydarzyło w międzyczasie w obszarze rozbudowy ogromnej infrastruktury cyfrowej, która nie jest instytucjonalna, tylko jest korporacyjna i jest bardzo scentralizowana i instytucjonalne życie i zwłaszcza w kontekście tradycji instytucjonalnej poświęceniowej, europejskiej, instytucji sztuki, instytucji kultury, w jakimś sensie okazało się, że ten sektor właśnie instytucjonalny w tym obszarze jest bardzo mocno uzależniony od tego wszystkiego, co w obszarze korporacyjnym zostało zrobione, a w obszarze instytucjonalnym zaniedbane. I w pewnym momencie pada taki call, taka deklaracja, czy taki rodzaj potrzeby wołania w stronę instytucji. Hert to sformułował i mi się to bardzo podoba, że on to sformułował w audio z dźwiękiem? Jest ok, tak? Ok, nie wiem, bo to tak się... Cofnąć się? Aha. To co, no właśnie, te parę zdań nie było. W instytucjach. Panie dziekanie, tamten mikrofon działa. Trzeba kupić nam nowy mikrofon. O, dobra. Decentralizacja, fragmentacja, kryzys instytucji. Kryzys instytucji, który wymaga albo jest szansą też na szukanie jakichś rozwiązań konkretnych. I my takim konkretnym rozwiązaniem jesteśmy. Stream Art Studio i UKRAiNATV. Generalnie taki call, który się wywiązał w ramach tej rozmowy, dotyczy właśnie tego, żeby próbować dokonywać pewnego rodzaju nacisku i oczekiwań wobec instytucji, żeby tego rodzaju tak zwane trzecie przestrzenie albo jakoś to jeszcze inaczej można by było nazwać, bo to źle brzmi po polsku, third spaces, powstawały takie inne przestrzenie wobec tradycji White Cube'u i wobec tradycji przestrzeni eventowych, czy kina, czy takich przestrzeni ze sceną. Takich przestrzeni, które są w jakiś sposób elastyczne w tworzeniu i dystrybuowaniu treści, które są też elastyczne, jeżeli chodzi o ich charakter cyfrowo-analogowe, performatywno-audiowizualne, poruszają się jakby w poprzek tych podziałów, które zostały wytworzone przez dyscypliny artystyczne i badawcze w czasach, kiedy możliwe, że ta dyscyplinarność zapewniała jakiś porządek, a teraz w gruncie rzeczy nie znaczy nic. I takie właśnie trzecie przestrzenie, takie przestrzenie jak nasz lab, nasze studio, to jest coś, co powinno być w gruncie rzeczy w każdej instytucji, w każdej uczelni, w każdym miejscu, które chce funkcjonować w kontekście współczesnej produkcji i dystrybucji kulturowej. I my takim prekursorskim labem jesteśmy, chcemy być i chcemy, żeby się to rozsiewało chcemy tego wraz z Instytutem of Natural Culture. I po powrocie z Amsterdamu trochę mamy chyba więcej też jakiejś takiej śmiałości, żeby o tym głośno mówić, dlatego jak ja sobie wróciłem do tej rozmowy z grudnia, to pomyślałem, że to jest bardzo dobry wstęp też do tego, żeby opowiedzieć, co przywieźliśmy w naszych głowach i nie tylko w głowach z Amsterdamu. Teraz rozmowa, ona trwa mniej więcej 20 minut. Aha, ostatnia część. Ostatnia część też jest świetnym wprowadzeniem do tego, co będzie dzisiaj, bo dotyczy relacji między dwiema kolejnymi kategoriami. Metaverse versus multiverse. Hert zwraca uwagę wielokrotnie, jest wielkim wojownikiem przeciwko tym ogromnym korporacjom technologicznym, ale przede wszystkim Meta, przede wszystkim Facebook, Instagram, które zmonopolizowały jakiś czas temu ten internet 2.0 i pewnego rodzaju takie katalizowanie aktywności użytkowników i użytkowniczek, kapitalizując jednocześnie każdy ruch i zasypając informacje i dane i tak dalej. Ale to już jest pewnego rodzaju historia, którą znamy, wobec której wydaje mi się, że też mamy już pewne taktyki i strategie obronne. Natomiast to, co się dzieje w ostatnim czasie i to, co się dzieje w ramach takiego kolonizowania idei metaversu jako tej jednej przestrzeni, tej przestrzeni meta, to jest kolejne złodziejstwo, które się odbywa w ramach tego w ramach obecności tego brandu i jego aktywności w przestrzeni publicznej, globalnej. I teraz wobec tego zachowanie w ogóle kategorii multiversum, czyli pewnego rodzaju takiego potencjału pluralistycznego dla tych przestrzeni wirtualnych, w których możemy się na różne sposoby spotykać i oby na różne i oby ich było wiele i obyśmy mogli się między nimi jeszcze poruszać. I dziś będzie performance w VRczacie, który będzie też w Twitchu i będzie też w studiu i będzie też w kilkukamerowym ujęciu streamowany, realizowany przez nas. I to jest też w pewnym sensie odpowiedź na ten wątek walki z monopolistycznymi perspektywami, a jednocześnie jakaś taka przygoda osadzona w naszej małej intymności wspólnej, a jednocześnie odwołująca się do geografii, takiej psychogeografii wyspy. Wracamy na Wyspę Węży. To chyba tyle wstępu. Lecimy do początku grudnia. Na razie.
Globalne ocieplenie to twoje,
Hello, UKRAiNATV, and Heart Loving is finally with us physically. And how do you find our studio?
No, very impressive setup, very big space, and yeah, you know, let's exploit all the technical and conceptual aesthetic
and
possibilities.
Full of energy crew of people from Ukraine,
roll.
from Poland, from Central Europe, from Belarus also.
Italy.
And I would like to ask you, searching for some answer or question you ask about crisis we are in, about one could say dramatic situation that we are stuck in platforms, that we are stuck in centralized infrastructure which takes our power, takes our energy, which makes us depressive and so on. We try to do our best to move our bodies, to mix with machine signals, avatars and people around the world, especially also in context of the war and context of this tension in Central Europe. We feel it so much, and I would like to ask you now about some possibilities, some maybe positive aspect, and also maybe about some illusions we have still in our minds. First question is about decentralization, which is very important term in your activity. It is very important term also in our conversation, email conversation, and also kind of the hashtag about decentralized Ukraine and to build up kind of the network bridges between institutions, collectives, studios, and so on across also geographical distances. Yeah, and what decentralizations could mean for us now and for future?
Well, let me first say that the decentralization in 22 means something radically different from 5, 10 or 20, let alone 30 years ago. When we started with a lot of the tactical media and internet experiments and communities back in the 90s, when we also had a lot of crises, war in former Yugoslavia, and so for us in Amsterdam, of course, there is a certain continuity here. This cannot be denied between what was happening 30 years ago in Europe and what is happening now in Ukraine. Back then, it was also about freedom of press and independent media, and about people taking control over the media space. Today, I would say it is different in that sense that, first of all, everybody, whatever they do in the war, wherever they are in Europe or on whatever side, people have smartphones, people have ways to record audio, video, take pictures, and so this kind of promise of maybe 30 years ago, of what at the time and still until recently was called something like citizen journalism, or we use the term tactical media for it to show that we can connect audio, video, radio, television with internet, and all these kind of let's say connections we could make between things that in our heads and institutionally, at least at the time and still to some extent, are not connected, right? The idea that ordinary people can have a space like this, a studio like this, right? That is still, I would say, revolutionary and extraordinary. However, we also have to take into account that the democratization of the technologies is also a fact. However, what does it mean that people can record and that they can testify? And usually that only means that they can record something and put it out on the known social media platforms, right? This is in a way the only possibility that is there. Right, you record something and then you put it out, maybe on a Telegram channel, or maybe on YouTube, or maybe you put it, and maybe let people know that it exists through Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or TikTok, whatever you use. So the issue really here is one, and this is what the UKRAiNATV shows, is the power of doing things together. When you bring all the resources, that I see around me here in this wonderful space, what happens when you bring them together, you connect them, and not only equipment, but of course people. Exactly. Right? People and their ideas and their creativity and their, political programs and their discontent, their subversion, their desires. This is the real secret, and I would still say that is more or less still a promise. Because what we see is that, especially because there is so much technology and it's so cheap and everybody has it, the idea of coming together and doing something with it together has more or less been forgotten in the last 5 or 10, maybe 15 years, and that's what makes UKRAiNATV so special.
Yeah, I think there is more and more collectives around, because there is also kind of the crisis of art institution in that's in this moment, because if we have more or less also in Poland for last 20 years still like kind of the upgrade of institutional culture, that better museums of contemporary art, better art galleries, but still they are oriented into white cube or this traditional 20th century way of showing more or less traditional art, comeback of painting and stuff like that. And what I think is important in our activity also, and what I would like to ask you about next hashtag or next question is the question of institution, crisis of institution, and also searching for another model of presentation, another model, because maybe if still this kind of studio is something impossible to create by 2-3 people, but I believe, I tested that this starting point is lower and lower. The prices, yeah, for cheap cameras and lights and stuff like that, it's absolutely, I promote this to people, students, try this, guys, in garage, in empty space. We few years ago,
prices have never been so low.
We actually we used to do the similar studio in space given to us by friends for free for a few months. We paint the walls in green, and it was like really fun to do something together, to walk around, to dance, and to dance between cables. But it was also a moment that I start to think, guys, we can do this in this independent way, in this tactic way. But I think the most important thing now is also to invite institutions to upgrade, to collaborate, to ask institutions to wake up in this field. I imagine that each museum of contemporary art, each art institution is supposed to have this kind of space.
To have its own studio, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I agree, because why do we need the institutions? First of all, we need to ask this question, right? Because purely speaking, from the technological perspective, we don't. And this is exactly the problem, right? So the technology is not a possibility. No, the technology creates a problem. Namely, that it kind of suggests that we can do without. Now, what has also happened, of course, and everyone maybe knows that, I have my background in the 1980s social movement and in the squatting movement, in the movements, to create autonomous spaces, is that wherever you go in the world, it doesn't really matter anymore, but also here in Krakow, wherever you go, right, there is an immense real estate speculation. And so what has become scarce and what is now the really rare commodity is in fact the space and no longer the technology. Right, so the main obstacle, let's say, for groups to come together right now would be to hack the institutions and to find a place like this, where we are here. And I understood you are here only, since 3 or 4 months, so very recently. This is the main challenge. And I'm kind of charmed that you, you make a call out to the art institutions, the museums, the galleries, to make a space, maybe in the cellar or wherever they want, in a cupboard, somewhere available for initiatives like this. And this is very, very necessary. But obviously, I also believe, that we should not only beg for space. I think also we can take some space sometimes, somewhere, right? And so maybe there's something empty, temporary, or so you also need to develop a kind of a new way of looking at the city, looking at the houses where is a possible space. I was here yesterday in a kind of a temporary art gallery, which is in an attic underneath the roof here in Krakow, and you know that
Elementarz dla mieszkańców miast.
yes, that one, and you know that really touched me because it was a very powerful space, and it makes it possible to do the kind of exhibitions or gatherings that people like without the control of the institutions or the control, for that matter, of the real estate market. That defines that the rents are so high and that in a way nothing becomes possible anymore. However, you know, there's another factor, and also this is important because we just come out of COVID. We just come out of a period of at least 2 years, or you know, depending on where you were and how severe it was. You know, of severe isolation, as isolation of people that had to stay home, and so you know, it was a very radically antisocial time, and so so that combined with real estate prices that ironically or cynically, you know, even in the COVID period especially, went up and up and up, right? So this is a very strange correlation that we have here. Luckily and hopefully, you know, the real estate will crash, or at least will come down a little bit more. And you know, maybe with things going bankrupt, there are you know, possibilities that open up. But yeah, the occupation and the, let's say, the hacking of the spaces in the city is a major media topic today.
Yeah, and I like the term hacking. I use also term the queering of institutions, and to make them more, you know, flexible, colorful, crazy, strange, and
it's
also
the same
open.
strategy, obviously.
It is, and. But maybe it's.
But the queering of the spaces. Let's dig into that, because this is a very beautiful. You know, is it a metaphor? Not quite. It's a strategy. But to create, you know, really, you know, new opportunities. Because that's in the end what it's all about, right? And it's not just the queering shouldn't just mean, you know, painting it, giving it another paint. No, you know, so it should be more than that, right? Because that would be not enough.
Of course, yeah. It's not about aesthetics; it's more about tactics, and this is one of the most important term in your activity. What do you think about future of this term, of this tactics in the context of platform internet, and also in the context of something what is changing slowly from Web 2 into Web 3, where is also strong in one way some possibilities, option of new decentralization. In other hand, maybe we are going to next level of acceleration of power concentration, and
but you know, here UKRAiNATV already gives a good example, because you know, we are not here in a Web 3 space. we're in a real space. We're in Krakow. You have gained access to this space, and that's the powerful move, right? And the move is, in our understanding, a move for a radical hybridization of the spaces,
Exactly.
right? And it's not so much, okay, we've given up, we lost our battles, and we retreat in virtual reality, and see you later, alligator, we'll meet again in the metaverse. No. So it should not be about that. We need to fight this understanding, right? We can use these technologies that are on offer out there, but we should use them to make new connections. And one of the connection is, of course, between the real and the virtual, between the space, the meet space, as we used to call it, where us, the human beings, gather. So that's the meet space. And meet you can write with 2 E's, that's fine, but you can also write it with E and an A, like the flash, where we meet in the flash. So this is the meet space.
Physically.
The physical space, yes. So there is that space and the space of the other. Who are not with us, but who we want to bring in, who we want to involve, connect to, and build. What in our conversations so far we coined with this term video bridges, right? Where we build kind of a bridge between many places, a multiplicity of places, using a multiplicity of channels and technologies, using a multiplicity of platforms, which of course the platforms themselves do not like. Right, because the platforms will tell us, you can only use one platform, and that's ours, right? So, so there is that kind of almost, a kind of a perverse mixing
tricking
of things that you should not bring together in a way.
This is what we do also as UKRAiNATV, that we restream to different platforms.
Of course.
Like
that's what we'd like.
And maybe one more question about future. You start to talk a bit about metaverse, and I remember our talk in Warsaw about the difference between metaverse and multiverse, what you propose.
Yes.
And I think in this moment, maybe it's
unfortunately,
good to
the multiverse was originally a very good idea. It's a very old idea, obviously. It's more than 30 years old, and even a number of generations have so far, developed it further, pushed it with all its ups and downs. For instance, with the rise of Second Life, and then its decay. And then, of course, suddenly arriving 2022. We see this enormous hype built up with a lot of money coming from Facebook and Meta, which changed its name. I refuse to talk about Meta because I do not accept this because I think it's a hijack, basically, what they have done. Now, you could also say if they hijack a concept and like this, the concept of the metaverse, we should strike back. We should take it back, right? But if you talk to ordinary people who are not so involved and have busy lives and they don't really understand, because for them there's only one metaverse, and that's the one owned by Mark Zuckerberg, right? And that's exactly the way he wants.
Yep.
He wants it. So
that's a shame. Yep.
yeah, which is a shame, and it also means we have to cut our losses and at least temporarily accept that we have to move on, and this is why a number of people suggested we should talk about the multiverse to express the multitude of technologies, platforms, protocols, and media that we bring together in this term.
Thank you. I think it's a topic that we can open and continue in our next conversation. Thank you for this meeting and to stay here and continue. Thank you. We are back. Wróciliśmy z Amsterdamu, gdzie braliśmy udział w dwudniowej konferencji. 2 days of the conference, there are some flyers around us, in between media. Bardzo polecamy tę konferencję. My pewnie będziemy wracać wiele razy do różnych wątków z niej, ale ja chciałem powiedzieć o tym, co jest w tle nas. Słabo to teraz widać, bo Gleb się strasznie fajnie bawi, ale Joanna Moll, artystka z Hiszpanii, która pierwszego dnia Wspój 25 w takim dniu bardziej konferencyjnym, bardziej badawczym, researchowym i dotyczącym produkcji i dystrybucji wiedzy wzięła udział. Było to dla mnie niesamowicie merytoryczne. Co się dzieje? niesamowicie merytoryczne i ważne i na poziomie wiedzy, jakichś takich odkryć czysto merytorycznych. Maybe I supposed to use English. Maybe. Yeah? Okay. I'm talking about John Moll, and for me it was very important moment in this conference. It was the beginning in two dimensions, levels, in a way of just a knowledge that I got from this lecture, which was very precise and very interesting investigation in the field of visualization of infrastructure. And then there was also about form of presentation, kind of a lecture, in a way performance, but nothing like a crazy artsy stuff, but some precise, full of content based on deep research and also simple visualization of contents that she worked with. And it's still art, it's not the theoretical activity. And now I will leave you here in the middle of the stage and I will go to the computer and follow your impressions from the conference. I will try to show something in the background, some websites, some activities of amazing people we met there.
It sounds fun. How was your impression about Amsterdam?
Really nice. And to connect to what Rom was saying, I was really impressed by this writer and researcher that talked at the panel the first day, and his name was Kate Deem. And it really, impressed me because he's working a lot with virtual reality, and he brought some examples, and is also really fun. And I wanted to write his own definition of what is actually his work. He defines
Para-reality guy.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay, yeah, it was great though.
Yeah, it was also really inspiring in a way, because I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
we heard a lot about this virtual world. Like, there is already like a bias when someone talks about this, but he showed it in a really also fun way and a collaborative way, because every time when we talk about this, virtual reality, it seems that someone is just hiding in his room alone and is disconnected by everyone. But actually, it was showing how even during like COVID pandemic and this Zoom era, we were all trapped in the platforms. There were some artists that used VR to map actual like real spaces.
The
and
office, yeah, I remember
Yeah,
this. It was
and-
crazy.
Yeah, like people in real life weren't allowed to go anywhere, but actually using this VR possibility, they were just recolonizing these places that were actually like empty in the real world. So it was really, really inspiring, and like also light view on this dark vision of what the future of technology can be. Yeah. What are you thinking about?
You have so many written down there. Do you want to tell something more?
I don't know. I wanted to quote maybe is like definition of himself, so everyone that's listening maybe can have maybe a more vast idea of what he's dealing with. So he defines himself a weaponized designer, anti-designer ethicist, tech pessimist. Again, that's connected to what we were saying before, and the founder of the New Design Congress, a non-profit organization developing a nuanced understanding of technology's role as social, political, and environmental accelerant. So
Sounds
this is
smart.
Kate. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean the old people were so smart. I was actually absolutely excited to and even scared kind of to sit there to listen of all this absolutely interesting but far away from my world stuff, and it's like, wow, that's impressive, absolutely. But I'm absolutely glad I came because for me it was new possibility to hear something new, something unusual for me, but something exciting and something very actual nowadays, because this whole pandemic and stuff, like during the pandemic, I think the whole the hybrid way of thinking was born, and this is what we should develop now, absolutely, because I don't remember who said this, but someone, probably he said this though, that like people got tired of the like Zooms and online stuff, and that's why the hybrid way of thinking, it's what we absolutely, like what is necessary now to provide into our daily life, because still sometimes people do online, people have online, you know, meetings and stuff, and like the hybrid way is the answer on many questions we do have right now.
Yeah, and in a way I think we really got so used to this new situation that was really uncomfortable, and now many companies are trying to, in a way, take advantage, you know, and just keep the work in a hybrid way, because for them it's of course more convenient, but they're not, and maybe even some people like saw the good effects and is, you know, if you can work by your place, if you're a mother or something, you can just, you know, stay at your place and work at the same time, but mixing like a house in your whole social space, it's damaging so much, and I think it shows also in younger generations, like teenagers that were developing.
Absolutely, yeah. The people who should go to school and should communicate and socialize with each other. It is, yeah. I do agree with that. For me, it was also actually, I don't know why I reminded myself this, but when I was finishing my bachelor degree, it was COVID, so I had an online exam, like the passing diploma exam, and I was, it was funny. I was sitting in my sportswear, in my like house wearing. I had my cat on my laps, and yeah, I was doing an exam with my cat. It was nice. Yeah, everyone loved her, but it was kind of sad that because of COVID we were not used to have, like, you know, the final party, and I remember it was just a weird feeling though, that we still need to be at home, and you know, you can't meet your like student friends, and you just can't like celebrate that you finished the bachelor degree. It's like the, you know, the first high degree you do in your life, and it's like it's a weird feeling that you already finished something. It's not a high school, but it's like still not, you know, the like super proper like PhD education, but still it's like the first adult step to mature life, right? And it was a bit sad that we had no opportunity to celebrate it in a proper way. I don't know how to connect it to hybrid way. Well, but to be back to this conference, yeah, that's what I was about to start. Thank you for navigating me, Daddy. Well, from my personal side, I would like to admit that I'm not technician at all. I'm just an artist. I'm just an artist, like activist, and you know, I was far away
it's not
from.
just, you know.
Well, yes, but like it was for me. I was way far away from the whole technician stuff and lectures that people were giving there. And one lecture excited me the most, and it was the woman you were speaking so much about before, and you were so excited, like to wait for her lecture. And I was like, if Julia is that excited with this woman, probably she's like she should be cool. And I remember when the Chloe was introducing Donatella, she said like, "Oh, it's going to be a lovely lecture." You remember this?
Yeah, I remember
And
the face of Donatella.
Yeah, Donatella was like, "It's not going to be lovely, but it's going to be a lecture." And she started to show the videos of the Syrian activists who were trying to film the I forgot the word.
Arab Spring.
Yes, and the process and the whole reformation and stuff, and how the power of image is working. And I constantly felt myself so close to this thing, because it just instantly took me back to the 2020 to Belarus, when the process started in Belarus, and when people were filming and tried to film everything, and they were beaten because of this. Some of them were killed. 99% of these people now in prison just because they tried to document, archive all the war crimes, all the government crimes which happened back in the day. And the whole problem of this appeared in my eyes when I was watching this lecture, and I understood how I felt not lonely back in that moment, because the way she was speaking gave me to understand that it is a huge mistake my people did, but we are learning from our mistakes, and that's the theme, that's the topic we should discuss more. We should educate ourselves more, because documenting crimes is very important. The cameras, the image, the power of image itself is huge. It's gigantic. But to use this power, to use it properly, it's a very hard skill. You can interrupt me if you want.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's I think the main problem that Donatella was pointing out is this narrative that images can be used, in different ways, and maybe she said, in this situation of crisis and anxiety, no one can say that they made mistakes. They just maybe didn't expect that the images they were filming, like even in Belarus.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
no one was expected. Yes, no one was expected that the films, how people were shot by police, will not just no one will care. I mean,
not taken seriously,
yes,
or in the way they were showed.
Yes, because for example, the first guy who was shot by a national guard, he got after his death, his family got into prison, and they got a gigantic mandatory from a government, and Belarusian government officially said that this guy tried to kill tried to shoot something or did something to the guard, so the guard had full power to shoot him. Yeah. But on the video you can see that this guy standing is just in shorts and t-shirt, and he's without his hands, he had nothing in his hands, and it's devastating. It's just it feels so unfair, and this made you understand that images hold their power. They should be used in a proper way, and we need to learn about this way, because just to post it on social media, it sometimes could not be enough, because social media, let's be honest, all controlled by big tech, and we are kind of, if someone would really want to, you could be cancelled from anywhere.
Yeah, and part of this problem is when you put it on social media, you lose, the how can I say? It's not your image anymore, and anyone can do whatever with that. So it's part of this game, and but I think it's in these cases we should focus more on to make archives that have a meaning, and they are secured from this kind of appropriation in
Absolutely.
The wrong way. It was kind of hard topic to hear, but
Absolutely.
I'm glad like someone brought it up. Like it's,
Yes, it was meaningful for me as well, because I learned from this a lot of things as well. I learned that because I felt honestly broken after the whole videos of protest I saw. Every day people were uploading thousands of videos of violence from the police, of the violence from the government, and no one was, no one was caring, because like other countries did nothing. And now in with the situation in Ukraine, this is deadly important that people are showing how it is really there, because we now, to be in Poland, we are in a hotspot. We are in hotspots with refugees. We are in a hotspot of the Ukrainians who lived there before, who lived here before. So we know, because we are very connected to them. We know how devastating and bad can it be. But people from East that do not really know what is going on. So the power of image we have right now, and the power of image Ukrainians and we with UKRAiNATV using as well, is absolutely unbelievable. And UKRAiNATV itself, for me personally, it's a project which gave me opportunity to tell the truth, to show whole world our truth. So people, that's why we use multi-language. So all the people, all ones who will want to understand, will understand it and will see the truth, because we are absolutely non-profit, not any government project, and we are not working to propagate anything. All we are propagating is peace, is togetherness, and love, lots of love, and the pink joint from Amsterdam though. But yeah, it's...
Yeah, I also remember this question that they made after Donatella's speech that was about if she was thinking of this person that will document, these war crimes as a single person, or like this communitarian eye that sees. And in a way, she said that we're not anymore in this individualistic vision of just, one directional, but it's like a collective work. But at the same time, I think, as you said, we are here in UKRAiNATV not focusing on one single language, one single, experience. So even showing in this collective view the personal story, like your personal story, Gleb's personal story, and to show that in the end, we can relate to real people. It's something that worked also for me to understand more this war, because I'm from a Western country, and even if I was aware and trying to empathize, it's different to empathize with a nation and like this multitude of people, and empathizing with you personally. That I think this makes me really feel involved, because you're like my family, and
absolutely,
I
know.
About you.
I saw it before. I saw it a lot when I was traveling, and after already full invasion in Ukraine, and I do have a lot of Italian friends in Italy as well. And when I'm coming to them, and when I remember when we just met, and I just started to tell them how I was working with refugees, how I was working with soldiers, with children, and they were like, "Holy fuck, is it real? Like, you're the real person, you're just a girl, like how?" And I was like, "Yeah, it is my daily life, and like I am here." And I saw how much my stories are changing people's view on the whole situation, because you're absolutely right. If you're connected to someone, if you're really speaking to someone, if you're someone, not just like on a TV program, on like news are saying, or even like showing something, you're just watching it like it's fucking TV. You're watching a TV, you can just watch a movie.
Yeah, and those are like so many information that at some point you don't feel anything,
Yeah,
you're just
like,
sad for
like
everything and
TikTok.
anything
Yeah,
at
the
all.
problem of scrolling was also lecture there. But yes, it's. I absolutely agree that after the image, how information should be spread on is just talk. Just people should talk more. People should share their stories more, so other people can feel the power of sharing from the other people.
Globalna.
Yeah, it is like the more you talk about it, the more you understand how, you know, for someone it might be just a talk. For someone, you know, probably people. Okay, I do have one thing that I want to say, but I'm not. It's not really connected to the whole thing, but it is like for me, it is similar. For the violence, for example, many women, and it's like a short introduction to the Women's Day, Happy International Women's Day, which already passed. But anyway, it's every day should be a Women's Day. It is the same thing. Many women who experienced violence are not talking about this, are not sharing the stories because they are afraid to be ashamed of. They're afraid to be, that someone might have fun of them, or that someone might find them guilty or whatever. And I met this huge problem when I was way younger, when I started to talk about this, when I started to tell my friends, first of all, that like, I experienced this. Yes, I had this, and all my friends, and you know, I could never believe, honestly. I remember I was silent about this for many years, and then I opened up to my friend back in the day, and she just looked at me and she said, "Me too." And I was like, "Wait, what? You never told me this." And my second friend later, I was like, "It's okay, probably, you know, it was just a coincidence." And then my another friend said me exactly fucking same. And then my third friend said me same. And then almost every girl I know would tell me the same. And back in the day, when I discovered how huge problem of not sharing about experienced violence is, I understood that sharing is caring. Sharing is what we need to learn, first of all, that to share your experience is not a shame, it's not bad, it should be, because if you share someone, it might educate someone. I started to share this to my male friends as well, because, you know, between girls, you know certain things, as you know, certain rules how to behave with men, let's say, you know, because we always do, because we are girls.
Unsaid rules. Yeah.
Yes, and my discover was that my male friends, the men who I adore, the men who I respect and who I love, who I know will give their life for me, who will like support me, and I forgot the word. Jesus Christ, sorry. Make me safe, protect me.
Okay.
They were shocked. They were like, how could you experience this? I was like, that's life. And I remember my very close friend said to me, you know what, it's thank you for sharing this, because it always was near. I always heard that, you know, this is real, that it might happen, but I never got it so real until you said it to me.
Yeah, and this is, I think, it's not just about shame. Like, personally think when you admit that thing happened to you, you
Or
see
to your
yourself,
close- yes,
yeah,
or
you
to your
see
closest
yourself
ones.
like, you know, a victim, and nobody wants to have this feeling, because then you feel like partly guilty to having let that happen, even if it's not your fault.
Yeah.
And even if I'm aware, and I perceive myself like feminist, and I believe in these values, but at the same time, before like something like this happened to me, and I was starting to realize, I was understanding that in a way, even if on paper I knew that was wrong, when it happened to me, it seemed like, yeah, but there is this really strange line that divides, and you feel like still in power if you say, no, it's nothing wrong, it's not a big deal, because then you feel that, you can protect yourself, and you feel still in power of your choices, and then you legitimate this violence to not feel like the victim of the situation.
Yeah, and that's a hard topic we opened up though, but like the main thing I think we both want to say that people should share more their experience, their feelings, because only in that way, this is the only one way we can learn about each other, we can coexist with each other.
Yeah, when you speak up about these things, it becomes smaller, you know. If it's in your head, it's like this big thing that will never go away, and you know it's just yours. And then when you share it, you understand that many people have it. So you think, oh, okay, they survived, they can survive, we can help each other.
Yes, absolutely. But it also help other people to understand. As you said, you know, that you came from Italy, and for you it was there, it was existing somewhere. But when you came here, when you started to hear the stories from the real people, and you started to realize that it's really a real, like it is real. It is very, very near. It was like, how much is it? How much kilometers is this until the premises? 300? Like it's not much. It's absolutely not much. And there's like bombing there. Like people are dying there. And we are like here, and I know that in Italy you could not feel this. I was traveling a bit after war started, and it is very hard. It is very hard even to feel it in Krakow after the huge wave of refugees stopped. Now we do have still refugees, but they're spread all over the city, all over the Poland, and you could not feel this whole scale of problem. First days of war, it was absolutely disaster, even here, and I could not imagine what happened, what is still happening in Ukraine. But it is absolutely true that it is very, very hard to understand and to imagine how is it when you're there, when you're on the west. I think I actually said before east though, so I.
No, but
I'm
got
still
you.
sometimes though mistaken where is left and where is right. So, hi.
Nice.
Yeah, but it was absolutely great speech of Donatella. I was impressed very much. I was impressed about that such people are still existing. Herod is such person as well. They're very inspiring, and I think she said to me when we had dinner, when we spoke with her, she said to me a phrase that our world needs more people like you, the young activists who are becoming something. They are doing something, because nowadays my students and young people, that are becoming more and more lazy. And I was like, for me, what I need is like more people like you, because I don't know many activists from Belarus. I don't know like many elder people who are not giving up, who are still doing their thing, who are still be activists, who are still like fighting for
maintaining what they accomplish, you know, because you're never safe. Like maybe now we have our rights, but tomorrow we don't know, and we have
absolutely.
to,
Let's say abortion
ask
law
for
in Poland.
that.
Jesus fucking Christ! I mean, the rights are literally taken away from our hands, and I don't know what is worse. I'm not sure what is worse: to not have these rights from the very beginning, or to have these rights and then to lose it. I think this is even worse. I think that now what is happening in Poland, it's like the gigantic problem which whole world should take, like, the participate in, because it's not only in Poland, it's in many countries though, but that's a good example how we, without fighting, can just easily like this lose our rights. Like today it's abortion, tomorrow it's something else, tomorrow they could forbidden no, it's not forbid.
Ban, maybe.
Ban, yeah. Tomorrow they can ban us to go to school or something. Like
happened in Afghanistan.
Yes, so. It's a huge problem. It's shows us how we still need to fight. We need to fight every day. Our life basically it is a fight. We just need to choose the weapon we are fighting with. Is it the metallic weapon people are fighting now in Ukraine for freedom, or are there like speech weapon we have now? That's what we are using, the peaceful way to change something, the peaceful way to fight. And this is what's important. I think that everyone more or less needs to choose your fighter.
Yeah, and I think people like Donatella can be inspiring for
Absolutely.
younger people like us
God.
that are, if someone that's so experienced and did his own personal or not personal revolution can be, like a fuel, an engine for us to do the same and feel like that it's possible, seeing that it happened through their eyes and then taking it and making it yours.
Absolutely. I was ready back in the day already to go straight from the dinner to squat someplace. And I was like, I'm super up for it.
Amsterdam culture about squats.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Should we mention though that someone, it was Tomasa said that about the squatted place of the Russian oligarch though in Amsterdam, and it was amazing. And someone said there was a party back in the day there, and I went there. It was no party; they didn't let me in, but I went there, and I was really glad that someone squatted a Russian oligarch's house. It is the same.
Yeah, and it was also interesting legal battle because it's illegal to squat places, but the fact that that
you
place,
can't forbid the Russian
yeah, so the court just approved that, so it was also
Russia.
a legal achievement. Thank you, squatters.
Oh yeah. I feel like after the conference, after the speech of Donatella, after my speech with her, I'm ready to squat something. Okay. Let's do it.
We're just waiting for a better weather, like spring, summer.
Absolutely.
That's better season for squatting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so stay with us because next Ksenia will perform in a virtual space. Yeah, don't worry.
Should we? Do we still have a couple of seconds? So I just wanted though to tell how great from the face of Ukraine TV. I would love to thank the Institute Network of Culture that they gave us opportunity to go there. They gave us an opportunity to show ourselves, to show our project, and hold this conference. I felt weird on because it was the important tech topics about TikToks, about the code and stuff, and then we appeared with our weird project, and I did a like TED speech when we opened our affair on the next day, and I was like, I still have no fucking idea what is going on here sometimes, and I really don't, but I love it. But the thing is that I said it on my speech, and I will say it multiple times. I know it, that Ukraine TV itself, it's a project which gives opportunity to people to show themselves, to have their voice, to have their right to talk, to spread the truth, to spread their truth, to spread for Ukrainians. It's a huge opportunity to show whole world what is happening in Ukraine. And I am absolutely thankful that I had an opportunity to talk for people in Amsterdam who probably never spoke to anyone from Belarus about Ukraine or about Belarus, and now I had the opportunity to stand there and to talk to these people, and I'm absolutely thankful them for it. Unbelievably, I know that I hope, okay, I don't know, but I hope at least that I changed someone's mind and someone's position, and probably someone after my speech there, after our effort and after our workshops, got interested in our situation, in our project, because this is how we should build connections, right? By the speech, by the sharing. So yeah, I just wanted to thank Hert and the whole institution for this opportunity.
And also Carbon for the
amazing, Jesus Christ,
goosebump performance from Kiev.
Oh
it
yes,
was really magical moment.
The understanding of what we did, the understanding that we connected to Kiev, who is like the war is coming there, and we were in Amsterdam, and Gleb was in Krakow, and we connected all together, and we saw how this guy is setting up the whole thing just to do a visual art when war is happening. For me, I think not only me, I think we all had goosebumps back in the day. It was amazing. The whole understanding of the process of the performance was so powerful that we fucking made a history, guys.
Yeah, you said that historical moment.
It was a historical moment.
Yeah.
Now we can finish officially. We are done. Thank you for listening.
Thank you and stay with us.
Yeah. Слава Україні! Живе Білорусь!
Text written by the mayor of Shostka city, placed in northeast of Ukraine. Also my grandfather Микола Нога. Дорога до Європи. Війна, з якою прийшов російський агресор на нашу землю, продовжує набирати обертів. Особливої жорстокості вона набула із залученням до російської армії чеченських бойовиків та засуджених до найманської армії «Вагнер». Виникла парадоксальна ситуація, коли по різні боки фронту воюють зовсім різні армії. Агресор спирається на криміналітет, на найманців, а Україну захищають патріотичні громадяни, які пройшли відповідний відбір, перш ніж були зараховані на військову службу. Зовсім різна і мотивація на фронті. В нашій армії патріотичний порив до звільнення окупованої ворогом землі за свободу і незалежність своєї батьківщини. Російська армія знекровлює чужу територію, вбиває мирне населення, проводить масовані ракетні обстріли, інфраструктури та осель мирних жителів українських міст і сіл. Як і коли могла відбутися така метаморфоза? Яким чином свідомість росіян могла так радикально та категорично змінитися за такий невеликий проміжок часу? Бацила брехні за допомогою засобів масової інформації вразила сотні мільйонів московитів. Внаслідок цього сьогодні відбувається роз'єднання сімей, рвуться родинні зв'язки, чужу, надуману і вивірену брехню вони розмістили у своїх мізках і впевнені, що це їхні особисті думки. Якщо на початку війни можна було дискутувати з різними рідними і близькими по ту сторону фронту, то зараз, як розповідає багато українців, сьогодні нема в цьому майже жодного сенсу. Більшість навіть телефони своїх родичів стерли з пам'яті. На жаль, така правда сьогодення. Природа та причина цього феномену буде детально вивчатися, але вже після війни. Що робити зараз? Ось питання, яке потребує відповіді, і яку нам, українцям і всьому світу, самим важко знайти. Взявши на себе завдання бити московського агресора, ми справедливо сподіваємось на допомогу наших партнерів, яка може радикально вплинути на ситуацію. Допомога, лише не стримування, призводить до знищення особового складу вагнерської армії. Але кожного дня гинуть і українські люди. Маріуполь, Солидар, Бахмут. На захисті цих фортець і просто серед українських полів стоять наші незламні, молоді і старші, батьки і ті, хто ще не встигли пізнати кохання, воїни. Рашисти, маючи чисельну регулярну армію, муштрують їх у боях з найкращими українськими військовими формуваннями, а доповнюючи бойовиками і садистами, перетворюються на дику, зомбовану орду вбивць. Природу російського зла до кінця збагнути важко через зловісну та нижчу сутність цієї країни, через її зневагу до всіх і всього наоколо. Необхідно зрозуміти, що московський агресор завжди нападав на сусідні народи, завжди воював і пишається цим. Московія збуджує і розпалює малі і великі конфлікти, не припиняючи спроб проявити свої імперські амбіції. Тільки за останні роки, вкравши у інших країн Придністров'я, Абхазію, Крим, суючи свої брудні пальці у справи Білорусі, гризе шматками і Україну. Свою найбільшу у світі імперію кривавий диктатор утримував і утримує мечем, бомбами і ракетами. Потрібно багато потужних інструментів та засобів протидії цьому злу. Вимушений сказати увесь голос, близький до відчаю, шановні європейці, якщо ми хочемо приборкати цього агресивного, некерованого імперського диктатора, то потрібні рішучі спільні дії та негайна мобілізація усіх ресурсів. Надайте Україні необхідну зброю, всю і зараз. Ми захистимо і себе, і вас. Ніяка інша армія, крім української, не може зараз це зробити. Українці не стоять перед світом з простягнутою рукою. Ми пропонуємо всім нашу волю до перемоги і свободи над рашистами. Збройні сили України зламають кривавого диктатора. Буде затягувати і роздумувати. Ми не здамося. Ми просто героїчно загинемо. Сьогодні у українців і у європейців немає іншого вибору. Україна буде опорою для всіх вас на багато років. Ми по своїй ментальності не агресори, а навпаки мирні і працьовиті люди на цій землі. Про це говорить і факт, що сьогодні ми благаємо виділити зброю, бо не готувалися до цієї війни. Подивіться на нас. Ми живемо в багатьох країнах. Як правило, українці – одні з найкращих інженерів, програмістів, лікарів, вчителів, артистів, водіїв. Україна не може бути і ніколи не була і не буде нацистською державою. І не може бути чиєюсь загрозою. Українці лише можуть донестями любити життя і країну і захищати до останньої крові краплі себе, своїх близьких. Слава Богу, слава Україні, слава Збройним силам України і слава Європі!
Slowly going to the next point of the program. Live performance by Ksenia and Julia, edited backstage with support from other people here in the studio. Inside the VR chat and in the same time in our stream and at the same time in the studio space. Hope you are ready. We are almost ready too, I think. Slowly starting. Stay with us. Stay with Ukraine.
soldiers who died on the Snake Island, and I would like to tell some words about what I did. And as you could see, my mouse was taped and my finger was taped to the pilot, and it was in a sign that soldiers did not choose their nationality, and they also did not choose to be there in that moment. And it was their home, it was their country, it was their chose to be there at the moment, and it just disappeared in a time, in a second. But what made them legendary is that they stayed until the last second, they stayed with their nation, they stayed with their owner. And this is what everyone should remember, that you always need to stand with your owner. Thank you.
Dobry wieczór, to znowu ja. Zapraszamy na reportaż z okazji Dnia Kobiet, który przygotowała dla nas Olcha Markul, którą pozdrawiamy, która wróciła do nas, była z nami na samym początku UKRAiNATV, a ostatnio pojawia i będzie się pojawiać znowu, because she is our intern for this season. And she prepared documentary dedicated to women because the International Women's Day just passed week or maybe 2 weeks ago. And there was also a moment of some discussion about universal aspects of this day and also about some mix of ideological connections to Soviet and also Imperial Russian elements of colonial and post-colonial impact into European culture and also in context of war in Ukraine, that things they are more and more strong and important to overthink. Maybe to searching another language about that topics. Let's watch it together and jak macie jakieś propozycje i refleksje na ten temat, to zapraszamy na czata. Dzięki.
Зараз у нас свято весни, День жінок, 8 березня, і всі жінки, звичайно, чекають подарунків, чекають сюрпризів, чекають різних приємностей від чоловіків, а також від оточення. Але в цей день зараз в контексті війни, в контексті російського нападу на Україну, ми розуміємо, що можливо це свято недоцільно святкувати, тому що це свято має відголоски комунізму, а також воно бере свій початок іще з радянських часів. Тому зараз ми запитаємо у жінок, у дівчат, чи вони будуть святкувати 8 березня, як вони будуть святкувати і чи взагалі варто святкувати його зараз.
Цей день ще раз нагадує, яку важливу місію виконує жінка. В усіх аспектах. Жінка-мати, жінка-донька, жінка-подруга. Тому що дійсно, на мою думку, знову таки, наша місія в тому, щоб максимально підтримувати, мотивувати оточуючих, особливо чоловіків, наших близьких чоловіків, друзів, хлопців, чоловіків, тих, що в шлюбі. І цей день ще раз нагадає чоловічій статі про те, яку важливу місію ми виконуємо в їх житті. Я вважаю, що 8 березня потрібно святкувати в контексті війни. Бо, звісно, ми живемо в цьому контексті, особливо ті українці, які знаходяться на території України кожного дня. І майже кожен день ми згадуємо про те, що в Україні війна, і це певним чином вселяє в нас якісь депресивні думки. А 8 березня – це додатковий привід, щоб трошки забути про війну. Не в поганому сенсі, а в тому, що життя продовжується і потрібно йому радіти, незважаючи на негативні обставини, які обтяжують наше життя. Тому, я думаю, звісно, потрібно саме в цей день відпочити, максимально присвятити час собі, як то кажуть, time for myself, максимально зробити саме те, що саме вас, жінок, робить по-справжньому щасливими, і налаштуватися на наступний вже, скоріше всього, звичайний робочий день.
А взагалі-то я вважаю, що зараз гучно святкувати будь-яке свято недоречно, але привітати жінок, матерів, дівчаток з 8 березня треба обов'язково, бо в час війни і так дуже важко усім. Будь-яке привітання, якесь квіти або подарунок – це підніме настрій. Я вважаю, що це свято просто весни, просто жінок, а прив'язати його можна будь-до чого. Ну, хтось вважає його комуністичним, але я так не вважаю. Зараз я знаходжусь з дітьми, як біженка у Польщі. Я привітаю свою маму з цим святом, можливо, трішки відсвяткуємо.
На мою думку, жінка заслуговує того, щоб в неї було свято, але хотілося б, щоб чоловіки згадували про жінок не лише у день 8 березня, а й також кожного дня. Тобто свято жінки, на мою думку, має бути кожного дня. Але такий особливий день, коли шанують всіх жінок, я вважаю, що це добре. В Іспанії тут відмічають це свято як маршем феміністок, така солідарність жінок. Виходять жінки, одягають пурпурове, носять транспаранти з гаслами, також грають барабани і йде така велика хода по центральній дорозі. Я відсвяткувала 8 березня зранку тим, що мала виставу про Олену Піліву, яка також була великою феміністкою, на мою думку. У Червоному Хресті я грала цю виставу для людей, для українців, а також для іспанців, які там працюють.
В Німеччині 8 березня – це неофіційне державне свято, хоча це дивно, тому що саме Клара Цеткін, німкеня, яка і дала нам таку можливість цього свята. Але це неофіційне свято лише у деяких землях, це Берлін і Мекленбург, де це є офіційне державне свято, воно відзначається. Інші всі землі, оскільки це Німеччина – це федеративна держава і кожна земля вирішує сама, чи відзначати це свято чи ні, тому інші землі поки що не прийняли такий закон. Наприклад, моя земля Гесен, де я знаходжусь, це неофіційне свято, тому що навіть магазини працюють, це не вихідний день, але, звісно, кожен німець, німкеня, вони обирають самі, чи святкувати його, відзначати чи ні. Як відзначають? Це різного роду демонстрації, мітинги за рівність прав, це конференції. Також це, звісно, дарування квітів і солодощів, нагадування жінкам про те, які вони прекрасні. Ось у Німеччині дуже багато людей із країн пострадянського простору, тому ці люди, звісно, відзначають це свято, дуже люблять його, завжди купують квіти, дарують їх і ввечері збираються сім'єю за обіднім столом і святкують, відзначають і говорять хороші слова своїм жінкам. Для нашої сім'ї особисто ми дуже любимо це свято і шануємо. Це наше сімейне свято, тому ми теж його відзначаємо. Цього року ми не зраджуємо традиціям, так само даруємо квіти, так само говоримо приємні слова, тому що це зайва нагода, будь-яке свято – це зайва нагода сказати, як ти любиш людину, сказати якісь хороші моменти, слова і подарувати, зробити якийсь подарунок. Це завжди приносить щастя, позитив, а з таких щасливих моментів і складається наше життя. Тому ми за будь-які свята, тому що це радість.
Отже, ми розуміємо, що жінки завжди будуть чекати в день весни привітань, подарунків, квітів. І хотілося б, щоб за будь-яких обставин, при будь-яких умовах жінки все ж таки отримували довгоочікувані подарунки, квіти, компліменти, і щоб інколи це було навіть просто так, подарувати дівчині чи жінці квіти, зробити якийсь комплімент, і не потрібно було б ніякого свята, ніяких приурочень, а щоб, можливо, мужчини, чоловіки, наша сильна стать робила це просто частіше.
I właściwie to przechodzimy, and we are slowly going to the final part of our stream, which is about situation that we can go out and leave you with almost 1.5 hours of the final session of the conference from Amsterdam, which took place in last Friday, late afternoon, after our workshop. Our workshop was an amazing experience, and Ksenia and Julia was talking about this today, so you can skip it back. And after our workshop, which includes connection between our pop-up studio in Frame in Amsterdam and GLEP and studio in Krakow, and also touching and amazing connection with guys in Kiev from Carbon community. And this is what is important in what we're supposed to say at the almost final moment from our life being in this F year. Everything together like is combined in the title Hope Core, that we are, that we got and we bring from Amsterdam, especially from Kar Mubarak. Greetings to that's a lovely, amazing guy from the HM collective. I really recommend you to check the website and activities in the intersection of design, web design, and civil grassroots activities in searching for subjectivity in digital sphere. They are very close also to our activities in terms of intersection of technology and activism and kind of the research-based investigation about possibilities to be more flexible in this space full of limitations, and they really create new engines, new tools, what is very important and useful for that freaks like we are maybe more working with imaginations, texts, storytelling, and also we lost in that spaces in between. Sometimes what is also exciting, but it's good to know that they are around people who know much more about the equipment, about possibilities, technological possibilities. And this Hope Core, finally, it's very, how to say, optimistic point in this full of traps and full of ambivalences we're still in, between war with that's corpo digital industry, and also between our limitations as humans, and that's limitation made us also tricky manipulators that we finally didn't stream on Friday this final conference in proper way. That's all over 1 hour and a half. We send it to Efir, to Ether, without sound. So this is our, I'm sorry to the world, I'm sorry to those few people who really did the big alarm in our chat then, and this is our answer. Ladies and gentlemen, and other genders, and others creators, and others humans and non-humans, post-humans and transhumans. There is the final chapter of today's affair. We are going back to Amsterdam and showing you half of first lecture, all second lecture, and discussion, which is closing part of the conference in between media. In between media. In between media. So I think I can disappear if Gleb now what to show, but I think I didn't tell you what to show now. Which file is it, the proper one?
with the community is also data literacy. If we know how it works, it is easier to develop a more critical view towards machine learning systems that rely heavily on data sets. It also makes it clear that there are people behind the systems. The participation of the community makes the digital archive polyvocal and is also a form of labor, meaning that the results of aggregating data also belongs to the community, to the commons, not to us nor to the archive. We created this linked data card to manually harvest data from book pages in the form of triples, and to show how data becomes machine readable. A triple in its simple form can be seen as a statement consisting of subject, predicate, object, like Agnes Martin is author of Eclipse. It is the building block of a network, and it shows how person, organizations, place, events, objects, time, and terms relate. To capture pages, we developed the mobile archive unit. It's a trolley equipped with RFID reader, lights, and a custom-built application that uses a phone to capture images. Once you place a book, the system recognizes it and saves the images to the record of the book in the database. It works like a copy machine. People make copies of pages they want to read later, but pages become directly available online for everyone. Later, the pages will be annotated, and the content of publications will also be part of the network of relations. Preparing the exhibition and developing Bibliograph at the same time, it became even more clear to us this complex equation of the cost of maintaining a physical archive versus the cost of maintaining a digital archive. And it is not very different in the long run. Both are like a garden. They require care, energy, and maintenance done by people. After 8 years collaborating with the physical libraries and archives of the Stedelijk Museum, Casa do Povo, and the Apple, when we started working with the digital-born archive of Framer-Framed, a new perspective emerged in relation to archives in cultural institutions. The fact that nowadays several organizations, big and small, have all their content for the past 2 decades stored on websites. There seems to be an impression that this content is being archived, but while there might be backups, the database behind websites is made to serve the elements of the pages, and the content is not easy retrievable. It is there, but it's buried in infinite scrolls, difficult to access and to reuse. And it is counterintuitive that a website does not work as an archive. But what we see on the web is that at the same speed that content is being produced, content somewhere else is being lost for a lack of maintenance or website migrations. What is left behind are broken links and pages not found. The internet is also a forgetting machine. It induces compulsive production, publishing, and broadcasting into oblivion. This fact is known to every archivist. In parallel, it is noticeable that many archivists here in the Netherlands, at least, are about to retire in the next 5 years or so. Nel Donkers works for 20 years at the Apple, Jacqueline Ellsberg for 8 years. Marietta Dirker works for 20 years at the Rijksacademie, and Marjolein Koch, that started Instituut Meli in 2016, among other examples. Michiel Nijhoff, director of Library and Archive of the Stedelijk Museum for the past 30 years, retired last year, and Geert van Coot from the Rijksmuseum retired in 2021 after 33 years of employment at the museum. It is a whole generation that is leaving, and with them goes a lot of knowledge, not only of the collections, but the arts and crafts of archiving as a method and daily practice is also being lost. At the same time, some of these precious collections are facing a precarious situation and uncertainty about their future due to a lack of funding, personnel, public interest, and awareness of the value of these archives for their communities and for future generations. As an example, due to budget cuts, the library of the Tropenmuseum in Amsterdam closed in 2013, and 900,000 objects were dispersed a case that illustrates the loss of memory with prejudice to specific communities. While physical archives face the risk of closing, there is an emphasis on digitization at the national and European level. In a recent publication from September 22, the Advisory Board of the Raad voor Cultuur acknowledges the opportunities that digitization presents in expanding the cultural sector's reach and in the creative inspiration it can bring. It also addresses some of the challenges that the digital transition for small and medium-sized cultural institutions. But there is no mention of the medium and long-term effects and of the maintenance costs of digitization. In another national initiative housed in the Koninklijke Bibliotheek called Metamorphose, one of the conditions for financing a digitization project is that the archives agree to withdraw the originals from use after digitization. The access to archive collections must state that the original documents are not retrievable anymore, meaning that, like the Tropen Museum, other archives face the risk of ending up in the bin as well. What is seen is that there is a focus in digitization without considering the widely known problems of maintaining digital collections. While paper ages very slowly, the entire digital landscape will keep on changing every few years, from the infrastructure to formats, hardware, and software. Without considering the costs and investments involved to keep up, the result of these initiatives will all get lost as well, sooner or later. And in a broader sense, what about the ecological cost of maintaining digital applications? This is not even mentioned at a policy level. What is the cost of the digital for the environment? And who, besides the environment, pays the cost of the digital systems? And until when? Regarding the digital online archive, we find it difficult to think about preservation in the long run. We think about digital archive as a transitory space to gather the contents, translate the collection as data, but also as a way out of the digital. That is why we started thinking about publishing as a form of archiving. So, how does it work? First, we separate the content from the website in an application-agnostic database, following the example of physical archives. When creating a publication, all the fields of the colophon feed the digital archive directly. Each publication is built out of different parts or blocks, like the front and back matter, chapters and sections, enabling a modular construction of paragraphs and a variety of media options and typographic style sheets for each section. By chaining these blocks together as digital pages, the editor can build a responsive web view. Table of contents, bibliographies, and the index are generated by the system and are also retrievable in the digital archive. The publication can be exported as a PDF for offset printing, turning it into a physical book, or portable, lightweight format for offline distribution, for online distribution, offline storage. The digital archive can feed one or more websites, and data sets can be exported in several formats, JSON, CSV, or RDF. Our concept is that the collection as data is every day better than the day before, and we are always ready to export collections and turn them into books again. We are bringing to this application, besides our own experiences in publishing sector, also the expertise of archivists with whom we are greatly in debt, trying to highlight their work, archiving as a process that involves human labor and archival consciousness. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mariana and Remco. We're a bit tight on time, but is there one quick question, maybe? No? Okay, I have many, but I'll ask him during the drinks. Thank you for this exciting talk. And yeah, I would like to invite Michael to come to the front to do the computer swap while I introduce you. Michael Murto is here to talk on behalf of the Experimental Publishing Master's Program of the Piet Zwart Institute in Rotterdam. Michael is, what did we say, a programmer, designer, and the head of the program at the moment, and is going to present a lecture that I need.
Sorry, we're doing something awkward. That's
very good.
The theme is awkward, and we're beginning.
And the title is "Remote Login is a lot like astral projections. Stories from Expub." Yes, shall I hand the mic to you? Are you ready?
Yeah,
yes?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Thanks, thank you. Sorry, small apology. Thank you for the introduction. We didn't rehearse this at all. We didn't really, we tried to prepare. And of course, that is part of the theme of what we're going to be talking about. This is actually, it was written as a description. It's going to be indeed a kind of, I'm going to be trying to give a sort of lecture, doing one thing, and at the same time we're going to have an intervention, we hope, from on the screen. So actually that's perfect indeed if you're seeing, but maybe it doesn't work, and then we'll fall back to something a bit more conventional. Can I sit down? Is it like, maybe I'll take a chair. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah. Nice. Perfect, thank you. So, just sit down here. Can you see my screen? Yeah. So the troubles begin.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I'll restart. Reload the. Yes. And I say we didn't rehearse, but we did actually try one thing here. Let me try it. A screen share. This is the intervention begins. So there's the fallback is actually if you just go to the slides. Okay, do you have them open? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is the fallback. The idea was that we were going to do this through a Jitsi because the interventions come from the workshop which Che and Erica were running about awkward gestures, which is the overlapping theme. But, sorry. Yeah, yes, okay, thank you. So indeed, actually the workshop was fantastic. It was actually all about these kinds of situations. It started with actually the question of situations people had of awkwardness over the last 3 years. And indeed, it was almost like, I think for a lot of people, a sort of release as you kind of shared these common traumas we're talking about, and indeed, your sound's not on. I can't see your screen. These are indeed things that are part of that. I'm going to try. This was oh, sorry. Indeed, I forgot about that. Nice. Okay, you're following me. So I'm going to just plow through this to try to keep to the time, which I've already. XPUB is a two-year master program at the Willem de Koning Academy. It was initiated, as you may have heard yesterday in Amerik's talk. There was also a nice kind of overlap a bit as he described LURC. And Amerik founded the program in 2015, and it's nice to say, indeed, it explores this kind of dual sense of making public and this way of exploring forms of making things public with particular attention to the frameworks and social, historical, political contexts in which the publishing occurs, and also this idea of creating publics. So the way these two pieces fit together. And I added, and nourish networks as well, which is actually a link to another project, but I'll follow the link. I'll mention Marloes de Valk and Manette Berends, who are part of our course, are part of a project that was called Nourishing Networks. This program itself has a long history, and I just will mention it because I think it's also, it was interesting, Gert's introduction yesterday as well, of this kind of three phases of INC. I mean, in some ways, we have our sort of parallel history, and that there was a media design program founded by Femke Snelting, co-directed with Matthew Fuller, that started in 2002. It became networked media with Florian Kramer, who's here. Amerik and I've been teaching in the program since 2003. Amerik and I were colleagues, and indeed I've been part of that transition. Then the third, in a way, I guess, was, who knows what number generation it was. It had lots of variations, but of 2015, the 2015 edition with Amerik. I'm going to follow just a sort of story timeline a little bit of the way the pandemic happened. So, beginning of 2020, Amerik Malsou, still directing XPUB. Oh yeah, and then I had more blah blah. Well, I will say these two things indeed, that we like to always talk about the course. The course is really unique in that it's really focused on collectivity and collective work, and then this interest in the tools, which in some ways I've already described, but again, and actually how those two things relate. So the way that actually the kind of frameworks that we choose to use or the infrastructures we use also affect that social aspect of how we work together. So as I said, indeed, we had actually, as a course interested in infrastructure, we were already very heavily busy with what infrastructure we used and how, and the implications of them. So before the pandemic, indeed, we had a mailing list, which is coming from actually LURC, so an example of a neighboring network that's helping us out. Also nice federated protocol, just to put before the kind of more contemporary notion of federation. We had this thing called Zulip, or we have a thing called Zulip, which is indeed a kind of communication device that's like Slack, but it's something we self-host, and is quite interesting how it works with email, I'll just say. But in fact, one of the key pieces of infrastructure was the wiki. This is something that's been existing actually in the course for a long time. We had started out as a technical support for the technical lessons, which I was actually part of. But in fact has really grown to sort of, it's interesting even outside of our own course, through the writing tutors and practices of annotating texts and reading together through the wiki, through the calendar extension that we added, which is like so useful, mostly because it's so open to interpretation or to reuse in different contexts, that it's actually in all the masters at the de Koning. But we have this, this quote from, this is a text that appeared on actually the very first wiki, which was called the Portland Pattern Repository, came from a kind of community of programmers interested in thinking about software. And it's warned you as you use the program. You're browsing a database with a program called the WikiWeb, and the program has an attitude. This program wants everyone to be an author. So the program slants in favor of authors at some inconvenience to readers. And we really enjoyed this idea of like software with an attitude. The fact that indeed using software, making software, it's all about making choices and having values and relating to a kind of community of use and a situation of use. And not all things are equal. So I put some points here. I'm not going to go through them all, but they relate a little bit to a point I guess I'm trying to make. Hopefully will. So indeed the privileging of writing over just reading, meaning it takes a bit of effort actually. Of course you can read the wiki, but it's a bit of a clunky, strange site sometimes. It doesn't require login, which was a kind of radical decision and of course different wikis differ. It's a generic term for lots of software. We use something called MediaWiki, which is the same software that's used with Wikipedia. So this is actually a slightly different but overlapping community. It uses history instead of permissions, which is another radical choice, was to say, like MediaWiki as a software is really against introducing, oh, can you just make that one page only editable by me? So that's kind of typical structure that would be in a technical system. Not there, actually. There might be plugins to try to do it, but it's really discouraged, in fact. So instead what you have is just every edit is recorded in a history and you can revert, which is really then shifting actually this idea of editorial control to make it visible, to make it negotiable, to make it something part of the community. And indeed, if you look at Wikipedia and how that works, that's a really good example. I just mentioned indeed the structured text aspect in the sense that it's very based on text. You can cut and paste out of it. It doesn't really use forms. It's not very structured in the form sense, but it prefers then rather just having text where there's sort of little codes, which again are a little inconvenient when you're starting out, but has this benefit that you can sort of copy and paste stuff in and out of it. So that's another aspect of this, which actually is something I would call non-prescriptive. I didn't really include this. This is a term that comes from Ursula Franklin, and who indeed talks about actually the way that technology can have these prescriptive natures that are really relating to actually dividing people up into having different roles. And so avoiding that prescriptiveness is also about allowing people to play multiple roles. The other piece of software that is ever present, I saw it a lot yesterday too, I was watching the stream. I wanted to say there again about this idea of flexibility of roles. One of the interesting things in Etherpad, so everyone sees what everyone's typing at the same time. It has, one of the interesting things is indeed authorship. Every author has a different color. So that's, you can turn these things off. There's lots of, you can clear them. But by default, it shows the authors with color edge, which is a way to kind of negotiate as you're editing the same document at the same time. One of the things I really like is that you can, for instance, I'm a fast typer, so if I'm, for instance, we use the the Etherpad as a note-taking tool, and it's very interesting to be, for instance, with Minetta Behrens, my colleague, we will often trade off with each other as maybe a student is giving a presentation or someone is speaking. I'll be typing things, then Minetta, thank you, you can hear it indeed, I heard it too. That's the sound of awkwardness, the dry mouth. It's true. And I think that kind of that experience of actually using this tool and its particularities and the way that it supports this kind of, okay, I'm typing as fast as I can, but I've fallen behind, inevitably what happens as you're typing. So on the next line, maybe Minetta then comes to the rescue and starts typing for me. And then on top of that, maybe I've typed somebody's name completely wrong, or somebody makes a reference to some media theoretician who I don't quite know, and I write some approximation of, and then a third person, Amerika's there, and of course, or Florian, better, will maybe come in and make the correction. So you have like this very dynamic way of people helping each other, stepping in, all again in a sort of that non-prescriptive frame of what Etherpad supports, and at these also kind of different levels, different roles, which then we can swap while doing. Yeah. I mentioned actually that I noticed, and it's actually nice even a little bit with Mariana's discussion just now too. Yesterday there was I found an interesting moment on the discussion of the and people were talking about, the problem of free software annotation, real-time transcription, so that would be really nice. And it was interesting that they mentioned that, so indeed, Google works the best maybe as a service, but it always gets the wrong. And that's actually really telling indeed, because also, and names, and the examples they gave. And that, I think, is also a nice example of the fact that, yes, data sets are normative. Data sets come from some experience, and they don't necessarily fuse well together with sort of community-specific knowledge, which, of course, something like the which is funny in that it's sort of almost like a phatic, 5 minutes left, okay, wow, okay. Then I'm really going to change this a bit. But yeah, so that's, I think, just to finish that point, yeah, I think to my mind, actually, the Etherpads in that way are a really interesting alternative, you could say. And I don't say it's a replacement. Actually, an ideal, I think, to my mind, would be, imagine you have a bot in your Etherpad that's doing automatic transcription and then allows other people to intervene at the same time. Or, indeed, maybe you want to think about making your own kind of models and training them, which is also interesting, but complicated too, and costly. So, I think maybe then I'm going to fast forward to playing some audio examples, because the really short of it is, the pandemic hit, we do things called special issues, and specifically which are collective projects that happened in the first year. Femke Snelting was going to what led the first of what became a series of 3 special issues called Radio Implicancies. We decided, thanks to another help from Lurk, we had the ability to make radio streams, and so we decided to do and Femke actually decided, and together with the program, okay, we needed to do something with the lockdown, the impending lockdown. This is March 2020. And so it became Radio Implicancies, which is, Femke wrote, is about practicing interdependencies, about how to stay with the complex entanglements between the personal, the economical, the political, and the computational, about thinking, using, and making technology with mutual relations in mind. And so I thought to have 2 examples. So the first is a piece that was called Protocol by Mark van den Heuvel and Tisa Neza Herlitz.
So I had this idea, a thought.
A thought. After speaking and thinking and then speaking again.
About technological frameworks and who holds power and experience this.
Frameworks and how we ourselves are powerful and how we ourselves experience that.
Are you comfortable with public speaking and collaborative editing?
It is a nice follow-up on what we just discussed and thought about and tried and failed and experienced.
The thing from last time that stuck with me was...
Do conversations ever end?
Sometimes I feel like they are a continuation of the thoughts that we have.
There is a pull from the pool of thought into a hearable spectrum.
Sound waves that travel into your ear from my mouth.
An echo chamber of thoughts.
Ping-pong game of ideas.
I see.
It's nice to do the streaming line. It's nice to do the streamlining live.
I can follow your thoughts and you mine. And from there, we can see where we go, right?
So what I thought could be interesting is to read our conversations out loud.
what we are doing now. I read your lines, you mine, and then we
switch in between.
Switch in between.
As I could become you for a moment and you become me.
To step into each other's shoes.
Yours are too big for me.
Mine are too small for you.
Exactly.
Exactly. But you can also think about what is in your head and want me to say.
So we can also explore this power and responsibility.
I am manipulating your mouth right now.
And I have power over your conceptual apparatus, but knowing that I do, I try to be careful, to leave you space to think.
The fact that I will be reading your lines will sound differently from speaking out loud.
What's in my head.
When I listen to the voice in my head, it's normally my own voice that is saying my thoughts out loud.
Out loud. But they only echo in my own brain. Still unperceivable to the outside.
Sometimes I need some time to form an opinion.
And now the one that types or thinks slower might get behind.
Behind the horizon of meaning.
Or just trying to catch up because we are working on this right now. So the most socially accepted thing to do, right?
It is the most socially accepted thing to do, productivity.
Production of meaning, we are constantly catching up with it.
Marathon, short track, long run.
Long run.
I think this is really interesting in how it works differently from person to person.
Or in these methods, it's almost like Googling the right words, Googling, a relay race.
A relay race. Passing an object of thought from one runner to the other.
Yes, but in a relay race you are not supposed to run back.
Only forwards.
What if you want to give back the stick to the person that you just got it from?
Rules are made to be broken, aren't they?
Yes.
I actually think we'll just leave it at that, the one. So, yeah. So I had a second example, but that's a good one to, and then I'm just going to sum up. Okay, 1 minute, but I can do it. So there were lots of great examples. This is just one. But I think I'll say one quick thing about it, which relates to, of course, what I made the comparison to Alvin Lucier's I'm Sitting in a Room, which is probably well known from some people, classic example of an audio recording made in the late 60s. Alvin Lucier, he speaks a text in a room and records it on a cassette, and then it's a kind of repetition of re-recording the recording playing in the room. And it continues and it actually becomes more and more abstract, and you get these kind of effects of the recording and the room, which produce in the end a kind of really abstract soundscape, which is quite beautiful. In a way, I mean, I don't want to, but yeah, in a different way, I think what's interesting in this piece is that it has this kind of aspect of sort of reflecting the particularities of these digital spaces in which they're working. They're using an Etherpad, so this idea of the kind of roles and the authorship becomes a script, which then leads to this idea, let's try flipping each other's, reading each other's lines. And then, indeed, also, I believe it was recorded in Jitsi, or at least rehearsed. I'm not sure exactly how the final production was made. We were all working at a distance at this point, I think. And so basically, indeed, it has that kind of, those hesitations, the sense of latency. Somebody mentioned in the awkwardness workshop as well, of that difficulty, of course, with delay in something like a video call. So yeah, for me, it's a really interesting example of a certain kind of awkwardness and a kind of reflection on the tool, and very much something that we're interested in. In the workshop, again, that just happened, and which unfortunately, didn't fully work. But thank you, Jay, for playing this role. They brought this quote, actually, which also comes from Femke. Also, when Femke, early on as well with founding the course, was I can't remember exactly the before and after, but also founded something called Open Source Publishing, which was, or is, still active today, a design group, a collective that works exclusively with free software tools as designers, taking on jobs. And Femke wrote this text called Awkward Gestures. While a familiar gesture is one that fits perfectly well in a generally accepted model, an awkward gesture is a movement that is not completely synchronic. It's not a counter movement, nor a break from the norm. It doesn't exist outside of the pattern, nor completely in it. Like a moire effect, it reveals the presence of a grid. Awkward behavior can lead to a state of increased awareness, a form of productive insecurity that presents us with openings that help understand the complex interaction between skills, tools, and medium. We use our awkwardness as a strategy to cause interference, to create pivotal moments between falling and moving, an awkward in-between that makes space for thinking without stopping us to act. So I had some points that I don't think are actually so well refined to even, well, maybe I'll just read through these last ones. But we thought of, indeed, as this idea of embracing awkwardness. So this idea of not fearing redundancy, the fact that, indeed, there's many overlapping systems, that one thing, oh, but, you know, there's the classic of always trying to, oh, I should be, you know, finding the better system that works. And in fact, it's more like giving in to that awkwardness, allowing systems to have these different kind of contexts and different affordances, different kinds of temporalities and permanence. And the fact that looking for, indeed, ways of being able to then more have tools that support that kind of negotiation, that have certain kind of openness, that non-prescriptiveness that allows for errors to happen, for people to maybe, for new kinds of solutions to be found, and for that kind of flexibility. Yeah, I think that's kind of enough to say for the moment, so thank you.
Thank you, Michael and Che, for this nice presentation. In the meantime, we're almost reaching the end of the program, but we'd like to go out with a bang. So I would like to keep your attention for half an hour more, and then I promise we go to the drinks. I would like to invite Sofia to the stage, and I just realized it's a rookie mistake. I read your surname so many times and I never pronounced it. Bochatore. Sofia Bochatore is going to moderate the closing session. And shall we invite to the stage all of the people?
So if everybody who led an expert session today, a workshop, and who came for a lecture would join us.
And we can bring some chairs to the front as well.
No, we haven't. So we need to move this.
Well, yeah, we can move it or leave it.
Yeah. This is going to be awkward. So that's a nice bridge.
I don't know why I received this.
Oh, we could just sit together.
It's not going to be a real...
Where should we be?
Like I don't know, everybody looks a bit tired.
I'm bringing it back to you.
Yeah? Okay.
Very,
yeah.
You want to join us?
Carl is representing all.
Oh, Carl comes out. Sorry.
This was...
UKRAiNATV, you joining us on the stage?
Yeah. Maybe Remco and Maria.
Too much UKRAiNATV.
No, never enough. Come on.
We are really sorry for the streaming.
You want to join us?
The synchron of between sounds and pictures, which is there. But I think after this talk, I'm happy that we have a very example of
actually sitting on the floor is nice.
Mass that's multi. dimensional sphere. Yeah. So, yeah, thanks a lot. And less stress.
Is it one of us? I think so. Yeah. Okay. If more people want to join us, feel free. I think this is it.
Yes, so initially it was supposed to be a conversation, but then because we are so many, there's so many of us, it seems that it's perhaps not the way to go. I mean, it's quite interesting because earlier I participated in the workshop of Erika and Che, and we spoke about this awkward situations in which we found ourselves in those hybrid situations where there's so many people that holding a conversation between all of us is just quite impossible because there is not really social conventions that allow for having conversations with so many participants at the same time and finding the moment in which to jump in and the tone to adapt. So a solution that we thought could perhaps ease the situation, and also given our number and the amount of minutes that we have, would be to actually kind of like take this as a moment to reflect on what everybody's been thinking about the day. What did you learn? Is there anything that you will take away with you in relation to all the reflections that we had and discussions we had over the program related to these questions of hybridity? And I'm realizing now that because I move my hands very much when I speak, that's not really good with a microphone. Yes, so perhaps I could give the microphone to you guys for a start, and maybe you could, no? Or you, if you like.
I can, of course, I will start. Yes,
Yeah.
hello. Should I introduce myself?
Yes, sure.
So I am Daniela Tenenbaum. I'm the assistant curator at Impact. I facilitated an expert session earlier today about, well, the title was Hybrid Intimacies, Linking Online and Offline, and it was about the possible connection between game design and gaming and hybrid event formats. Just very briefly, because we don't have much time, but what I took from today was how important the entire issue of interaction is inside of hybrid events. How can we improve this interaction between online and offline participant, and how much more we have to do in this realm in order to really create a fun and inspiring and engaging hybrid event formats. I think for me, this whole interactions and interaction design was also very eminent at the and Hackers and Designers workshop that I took part in, which was lovely, as well as with my expert session, and just also with the awkwardness issue, this whole issue of how can we bridge this gap between the online and offline participants is something that I am taking away with me to think more about. Yeah?
Great, thank you.
You?
Who else?
No, I need to bring it to someone. I can't talk by myself.
I can talk.
Thank you.
No problem. I don't have to introduce myself anymore, I think, but I just wanted to say a few words about, like, there seems to be like this, sometimes this huge gap between the social urgencies that we're facing and creating fun, inspiring cultural programs, right? I want to say that for me in the past 2 days, it doesn't have to do anything with the expert session that I was facilitating on event reporting new style, but I really sense the revival in the urgency of tactical media, in the sense that when I see Remco and Mariana presenting, I think not just that this is a really beautiful tool, but it's also a middle finger to, or maybe an alternative to Google Books. And I think back of the Yugoslav wars that I was reading about a lot, and how bullet board systems upheld by artists in Amsterdam and Zagreb actually created communication tools for non-censored communication. and that there is actually quite a close connection between these cultural programs and the cultural value and the social urgencies that we're being faced with. And I saw this in Donatella's lecture about the Arab archives. I saw this today with UKRAiNATV's presentation. I saw it in many more of the contributions of today. But yeah, this is something that I will take forward and have a renewed sense of urgency in also taking the liberty to create awkward, maybe sometimes not so accessible experiments that we really need to take the tools into our hands and therefore create counterpower. And yeah, this for me has been really inspiring and important.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to say something now. I mean, it's all still fresh and baking, or what? Yeah, I'll have more to say maybe next week. But I think I learned today that people who are maybe not always interested in going into the murky waters of technology, let's say, don't hate it as much as I thought. And actually people enjoy being a bit knee-deep in frictions and seams and unsmooth experiences, and the messiness of it is not as repulsive to others as I thought it would be. Yeah, that was nice. If I think of something else, I'll take the mic again.
Maybe, I mean, I would just say the one thing that came to me that really surprised me was just actually this recognition for myself of how actually indeed traumatic this last period of time is. I mean, I was talking with other people as well just about the fact that, like, for me it's also, I'm at a certain point I basically didn't travel. Like I was I really internalized a lot of the whole kind of lockdown, to the point because somebody asked me how I dealt with getting to Rotterdam, and actually I stopped traveling. I live in Brussels actually, so I was quite remote for a long time, and it really was like, and the funny thing was it was like a spell that had been cast over me, and it didn't really break until September 2022 when I first went and thinking that okay, I'm going to do half and half, and after that first just probably 5 minutes of being together with the students who I had never met in person. I mean, there was a group that I had only met through, I mean, I never went back to, I mean, I've been there every week. So, yeah, that was something that was nice as well to kind of hear from others, but it's also kind of a recognition of how strong actually this, indeed it was said as well, that that your only interaction becomes that mediated interaction is quite extreme.
Thank you. Yeah, before I go, does anyone from UKRAiNATV want to also say something? Great.
Thank you. I can't speak short, so I'll try to be. I just actually kind of agree with everything you said, and UKRAiNATV is basically what we experienced today, because it was super hybrid, it was sometimes awkward, not everything went with a plan, but I'm just gonna say that I think it's it is what we need now, right? Like we got used to online life, we got used to Zoom during COVID and stuff, and then it's kind of like needs to change. We need something new, and like to combine these two things together. You know, we are just on the start of this road, I think, and it's super cool that we all are just into it. We are not scared, and we are just doing. And yeah, it's cool.
Thank you. Joe, do you want to say something?
Do I look like I want to say something?
I'm not making assumptions. No, I'm not making assumptions. I mean, if you...
I did follow the workshop, so for me it's a bit harder to respond to that particular stuff. But yesterday? Huh? No, online. We followed a bit online. It's more preparing for our own talk.
Okay. So just for contextualization, I was together with Carl and Artemis, who's there. We were leading the expert session on the living archives, and actually something that was quite striking for me, because we've been speaking a lot and reflecting on a lot of things that have happened, and there's this question with archives of like things that are entering an archive are usually things that are over, so things that events that have passed. And there's this question of like different temporalities, and we had a lot of conversations about the term living archives. What does it even mean something? And then we ended up having this discussion also on what's a living archive in relation to a zombie archive, to what would be a dead archive. Are certain archives sleeping or like being dormant? And then not just because we had, or at least in my work, I tend to focus a lot about for whom is the archive made, which community it is supposed to serve, but actually I never really think about for when is the archive and when is the content supposed to be accessed again. And I think that in relation to the last 3 years that have felt like a decade, that was quite something to reflect about, like, for when is the archive, and also we had a lot of conversations about maintenance, how funding, because we tend to do archives, or at least in my practice I tend to do archives also on the basis of funding that we receive, and how this funding doesn't really actually enable to think about these questions of maintenance and for how long the archive is going to run until it breaks down. So usually that's part of the reasons why online archives are actually quite ephemeral. Some of the research that have been made into living archives was actually trying to access projects on living archives that are not on anymore because it has vanished. So I think I could go on forever, but that's that was this question indeed of like for when are the archives being made, and what do we do with all of this, and then what do we do with all of this content then with that in mind. I think is something that's that I'm gonna keep from this day. And now I'm gonna look again at the time to see whether we actually have a lot of time left.
I mean, I would like to maybe pick up on what you said and turn it into a question for Remka Mariana. Because you showed a project, but an aspect that you didn't really talk about yet is the decentralized nature of this data gathering, and how it can be an alternative to big platforms, but what kind of infrastructure of maybe cultural institutions we need for that. Could you say some more about that?
Yeah, I want to respond to this and also a little bit about what you said. And let's say in my work, especially with physical archives, I end up noticing this aspect of that the archive is also in the present, in the sense that of how the archive is being made, right? And also we are constantly with this struggle of the archive cannot in a way be seen as a project, because otherwise when the funding is over, the archive is over. So what we are doing, indeed, so we come from a background more of data and databases, and back in the also early 2000 and at the beginning of the decade, working with ontologies only in the making of the ontology, but never in the exploration of the ontology. So like really just programming a database and just feeding an ontology and just like experimenting with ontological models using Protégé and also open source software. It was completely impossible to run like an ontology in parallel computers, things like this. And it was also indeed when Google bought Freebase, that was an ontology also in the humanities that later incorporated into this sort of box that they use. Anyway, the technology since 2010 started to become more and more available. So we are using a graph database that is made for like a lot of that. And we are also using an open source version of a graph database. And it is a bit of an absurd thing to install a very small archive from a data perspective like the Apple. But it was only because the Apple was so open to us, actually. And really, I run also a database of the Apple in my own computer. So out of this trust, we decided to prototype this. And the only way to maintain this would be to add, I made a calculation, actually 40 institutes. So it's not much, but it is quite a lot. So that's why also we teamed up with Frame of Frame that has much more experience in also in managing, let's say, a community of other archives. So we also saw that from the outside, and we mirror the precarity, because the two of us, you know, like offering archive for like a lot of big institutes. So this also reflects the precarity of the situation, and then, yeah, so only with this continuation, still with the funding as well, that we can add other institutes. So basically in a graph database, another problem that happens often is that this idea of having a common vocabulary, you know, a controlled vocabulary. So we work only with an upper level ontology. That's our kind of trick that I end up doing, is that to combine like an upper level ontology, which is just like the main categories of people, places, organizations, and, you know, time and space, but customized for every different archive. So in this way we share an infrastructure in which anyone can have their archive, and the graph database helps on this, because you don't need to have a model beforehand. You know, you can adapt your model on the go as much as you want, actually. And then this facilitates that everyone can have their own instance and tap into each other or not. So in this sense also we are only interested in really developing for communities, not for people, because, well, there's tons of things for people. But for community, we think that also the architecture can be a bit different in relation to security, in relation to, like, there's a lot of implications in developing for people that one by one for communities you can be more, let's say, build on the go. So we actually launched Bibliograph as a beta, as something you never would do in public, because it was inside of the Apple. And then now, let's say, our mindset is that an archive like Frame of Frame, now we are going to turn their archive into an instance of our database. And every archive, the Apple or Frame of Frame, they can invite other archives, because what you need to share is actually the method. The technology is going to become more simple. For us, it's actually not so hard. What is hard that needs to be shared is the method. It's how you prepare the data. How do you create the method? How do you create a system as an ongoing thing in an organization? Because archiving is not like publishing a book. It's really an activity that is ongoing, like a garden. Yeah.
And how would you imagine that, like, because you were speaking about reaching out to eventually like 40 institutions. Did you already think or try to imagine how that could develop over like many years, and what it would look like in an ideal world?
Yeah, in an ideal world is a little bit like one by one, but in the moment that you have 5 and each of these 5 can add 1 and each of these 1 can add, so what we want is a little bit of a tiny, slow snowball, one by one. Really kind of a word of mouth, like Casa do Povo. The same archivist of Casa do Povo is archivist of the landless movement in Brazil. That is a huge archive with like interest of the community, like spreading the entire country, you know, like, so if he has this, it's a small protocol like to then enter in our database, and they can use it. And that's why also we made this Silverfish, this mobile archive unit with a really cheap phone. Actually, it's a really cheap Samsung phone that Jacqueline operates. Jacqueline is there, and in order that these communities can get this, you know, can like implement this, also to digitize, because it's only, we also think like that a way of distributing annotation and feeding the archive is also always keeping a source of it. So the way to add metadata would be like annotating through the colophon and things like this. So that's why you need the digitization in the first place. But after you have things digitized, data in itself is very, very, let's say, lightweight. And we also saw when Bolsonaro took power in Brazil, like the Archive of Resistance, which is like the archive of, all the documentation left from during the dictatorship, very, very important archive. They immediately just sent out some mirrors out of the country, and they put all their budget on this that year, because and then we saw exactly like you have to just like let this thing just go and mirror and keep it. But yeah, exactly. So that's what we want to make, this sort of publication of the archive, which we see even actually really on paper as a phone book, but also just as data that can go. But the problem with us is that our archives are living, and that's the thing. So it doesn't help to just mirror, because they are continuing. Yeah.
That's actually really really inspiring and really interesting. Like how, also speaking about this question of how to push all of your data and relying on other communities to actually sustain and ensure that all the information and all the content of the archive is not lost over time. Like having this community of support.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, because I know that some of you have done quite extensive work on the question of archives and sustainability, and yes, I'm looking at you, Michael. I'm wondering, like, what if you had any reflections in relation to this system, because you've been so involved in thinking about, notably with active archives and all of this question of how to build maybe lighter weight archives, and thinking about this question of how data can be a bit more sustainable. Whether
it's a good question indeed. I mean, I don't have any solutions that come to mind other than, I mean, it's a bit flauw, I want to say, in the Dutch, a bit lame to maybe say. But it's true. I mean, I'm somebody who's come from a technology background, and I've been teaching, as I was saying, in an art school for the last 20 years. That has been a way, kind of second education. And for me, it's been indeed just a sort of appreciation of, like, the book, as indeed, it's a bit, I think, cliche to say, but indeed, I think I value more and more the way that it's super important to see. I guess the take I would say on that is, it's really, I think, interesting to see how archives and databases can work as generators, and so that can really be actually a way of actually making multiple sorry, I didn't see that. Maybe it's better I don't. But no, but that's one thing, would be indeed this idea that you can generate actually many forms, and the more the better. And indeed it is about actually, so there are troubles of that is, like, I'm hearing immediately data replication, that is the difficulty of mirroring, is how to mirror a database and still allow them to change, and how do you synchronize, and I think it's a super interesting topic that unfortunately still now there's this divide between sort of technical solutions and then the social realities. So that, and broadly said, I think that I find that very exciting to then think about the possibilities for, you need that kind of multidisciplinarity then in thinking about the standards that then actually do solve problems that people actually have in practice. Some thoughts.
But actually hearing you, I was thinking also a bit again about, like, some conversations we had in terms of again sustainability, and how perhaps because of these questions of maintenance and risk and so on, how also a living archive could be considered not necessarily a place for the data to end its life in, but also how we can take it back and reactivate it outside of the archive, and think about what it can become beyond the archive, and that could materialize in publications, but also in events and so on. And so that's, I guess, one of the last takeaways that we had in the expert session, and trying to think about that also in the development of the project we've been working on. And I think we're reaching the end. So yeah.
Yes.
Maybe Sip, you could give us very briefly a roadmap. What's going to happen from here, to the end? Because this is part of the 2-year research program. Many of us here are part of it, and so it would be good to at least know what's going to happen in the second part until early 24.
Yes, okay. I can start with the long term and then retrace to the short term, which is what is happening tonight. So on the long term, we're creating in 3 groups, one on hybrid events, one on hybrids or experimental event reporting, and one on living archives. We're creating prototypes, which means awkward proposals that somehow work for us, how to keep working around on or with this hybrid cultural programming in ways that we find meaningful, that we find empowering. And the way that you will be able to access those is through our blog. You can go to networkcultures.org and you will find the Going Hybrid research page where we keep blogging about our progress. But towards the end of the program, which is so in exactly or like 10 months from now, January 24, there will be a publication. All of the source code will be on GitHub if we develop something. All of the manuals we will create will be online. So we do publicly funded research. That means that the results will also be publicly available and shareable. So yeah, this is what we will be doing. If you want to stay involved in a more active way, you can send an email to info@networkcultures.org, and we will make sure you get connected to the right people within the project. I think that's all I can say about that for now. Then I can say about today that, first of all, we have this amazing situation going on here, and some people with us on the stage, but also behind the scenes. We have Lydia from Framer Friend working really hard with us, and Jean, and I want to thank them. Ashley is also here, thank you. Tommaso Campagna, who's been really working his ass off to get this working technically. Thank you, Tommaso. And Jack Frazier, also thank you for your audio technical skills. Then, shall I?
Yeah, I think we're to go.
Tonight, there is a party organized by Ray Dolice, who's working with us at the INC. It's going to take place at the former squat, OT301, on the Overtom. We're going to open the doors at 9. Music starts, there's going to be 3 DJ sets, starts at 10, and we're going to go on until around 3 a.m. in the morning. So, I'm sorry? Oh, 9:30. Well, okay, yeah. So please join us for a drink and a dance. And yes, if you want to make sure, because it's the first free event in OT301 in a long time, so it's probably going to be pretty busy. So we're making sure that everyone that's here and who wants to go can easily get in without any issues. We're handing out wristbands. Kate, who's with us at the INC here, is holding the wristbands up. Make sure to go by and get yours. And we have half an hour of drinks here now, while we are slowly tidying up. Join us for those, and then see you tonight. Thank you. Thank you for being with. Thank you. Thank you, Sophia.
What about start? I have touched today, and I need some practice because of this difficulty. And well, work with this material is very good. And together it's very good too.
What do you think? Maybe it will be comfortable for you if it will stay on kind of.
Depend what I play. You know, if I need some energy and beatbox, it's better to like that. And if I can play more melodic or something, I can stay. Depends.
I think.
Телефон дзвонить.